Everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Bat Around. I'm your host, Paul Valley. Your eyes do not deceive you. That is not Zach Moore. That is Griffin Bass of Glenn Clark Radio fame. You are tuning into the Bat Around Take 2 on this lovely Saturday morning here in the new year, January 3rd, 2026. Today's show is brought to you by Help My Gambling Problem. If you or a loved one has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. Griffin, it seems like you're hearing me loud and clear this time.
I do, yes. I hear you loud and clear. Happy to be here.
Perfect. I'm happy to have you here. Not sure what the technical difficulties were there, but we basically had to leave the studio, come back in, unplug everything, and plug everything back in. But we are here now and ready to go on the Bat Around. The Orioles have been one of the most active teams of the offseason to date, Griffin, but that hot stove has cooled a little bit as the holidays have passed and we've gotten into the cold month of January. The Orioles had a flurry of activity between about mid-November to the first or second week of December, and with the exception of adding Shane Baz a couple of weeks ago, haven't done much since. And just if you've been living under a rock somewhere in Baltimore, the Orioles have brought back in Andrew Kittredge. They've traded Grayson Rodriguez for Taylor Ward. They've signed Ryan Housley to be their closer. They signed Pete Alonso to be their first baseman and their middle of the order bat. And they've gone out and traded a bunch of top prospects for Shane Baz to revamp that rotation a little bit. But the team is not done, Griffin. The team is not done. The rumors are that they're still in on the top remaining free agent pitchers. I posted a video this past week that stated that Tatsuya Imai signing or going back to the NPB would cause a domino effect no matter what happens. Because once that domino falls, the starting pitching market can start to move. And I think that a lot of these guys were waiting to see what an unproven yet talented pitcher was going to sign for. He got 3 years, $18 million average annual value that can go up to $21 million average annual value signing with the Houston Astros. The Astros are looking to bounce back after missing the playoffs for the first time since, I believe, 2016.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, so Imai signs, and now we're getting the rumors that the Orioles are in on Ranger Suarez. I don't believe they're in on Framber Valdez. I have heard about an offer out to Suarez. My source tells me that there is no offer out to Valdez. And I, for one, while I would love to have Ranger Suarez added to the Orioles rotation, I think their best move moving forward would be to trade for another starting pitcher. And we'll get into that later in the show. But before we do, Griffin, it's been a while since you've been on the show. Give me your thoughts on the Orioles offseason to date and how you think they stack up against the rest of the division now that they've added some key pieces to an already talented roster.
Yeah, it's definitely a far cry from where we were last year. I think I remember joining you probably about this time, like the first show of the new year, give or take, this time last January. And we were sitting here, the Orioles signed Tyler O'Neill and Gary Sanchez, and I was sitting here trying to hype myself up, saying, "Oh, Charlie Morton's a great pickup. This is exactly what the Orioles needed." Obviously, none of that was true. So this feels so much different than the way we were talking a year ago. So it's just hard not to be excited and counting down the days to when spring training starts, and I can't wait to see all these new guys in orange and black because there's seems to be a lot to be excited about, and it's unbelievable that even after all the moves, after all the acquisitions they've already made, we're still sitting here and saying, they should. There's no reason they shouldn't be able to acquire one of these top front end left-handed starters like that. That seems unbelievable. It's just I don't know what flipped in Mike Elias's his calculus, what flipped in his mind, what switch that was. But I'm glad he flipped it because this is a team that looks like that they should be able to contend for a World Series, no doubt, especially And as good as the AL East is, there's no reason they shouldn't be contending with the Blue Jays and the Yankees right at the top of the division.
Absolutely. And well, the reason that Mike Elias did it is because his job's on the line, right? After last offseason, the players that they brought in weren't good enough. And that's just the bottom line. They weren't good enough. And the Orioles went from a team that won 101 games and 91 games in back-to-back years to a team that lost 87 games last year. They were 75 and 87. That can't happen for a team that's window is supposed to be wide open, right? So Mike Elias' job, in my opinion, it was on the line. And I don't believe it's on the line anymore because he's made this team really, really good really quickly this offseason. With some of the players that they've got coming back from injury, the rotation getting an internal bump just from getting a full season out of Kyle Bradish this coming year, hopefully. The rotation is going to be better. I mean, you replace a Charlie Morton with a Kyle Bradish. You replace a what's his name?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's like these are guys that we don't even want to have to ever think about.
You replace a Tomoyuki Sagano with a Shane Baz. You replace an injured, ineffective Zach Eflin with a Zach Eflin who's feeling the best he's ever felt in his entire career. I mean, you talk about Zach.
Kyle Gibson was pitching for the Orioles in April last year. Like that was unfathomable for that to
exactly. And you look at a guy like Zach Eflin who was just brought back on a 1-year deal last week. He claims he feels the best he's ever felt. He had that back surgery to take care of a disc. There was a discectomy, I believe is what it's called. And he
it was like a micro, something long.
And
word.
So
that's still a little scary, I think. Just whenever you hear back.
Well, he's throwing his first bullpen of the offseason in a few days. He's been throwing it this offseason to this point. He says he feels great. And you think about the fact he's been pitching with this back issue for 4 years. And you look at what he did in 23 and 24 with the Rays and then the Orioles, and he pitched to a 3.5 ERA in those 2 seasons combined with this back issue. And he said that it changed his mechanics. It changed the way his arm slot because he was so uncomfortable throwing the baseball because of his back. So I'm excited to see if you get Zach Eflin pitching like he did after the trade to the Orioles, those first 12 starts, for his 9 starts in 24 and the first 3 of 25, and the way he pitched in 23. If that's a Zach Eflin that you just signed, and he right now stands to be your number 3 or number 4 starting pitcher, that's really good for this rotation. Then you talk about Trevor Rogers, who through 19 games this past season, he had 19 starts. I believe he won 8 or 9 games. He had a 5.8 WAR in 19 starts and a 181 ERA. And here's the thing. People keep saying, Rogers isn't going to duplicate what he did last year. Well, yeah, he's probably not going to make 32 starts and pitch to a 181 ERA. That's the best pitcher in baseball. He's probably not the best pitcher in baseball. What he is a guy who raises the floor of your rotation, raises the floor of your team, and he's proven he can go out there and have ace-like stretches. So if you need a good start, you can depend on him to go out there and have a nice run of starts for you. Kyle Bradish is the de facto ace on this team. He should have been a Cy Young finalist in 2023, and he looked even better than that in 24. Came back from Tommy John surgery last season, and in 4 or 5, or I think he had 7 starts. He looked every bit the ace that he was when he went down. This rotation is talented, but it is missing one more piece. And you have guys in the rotation like Rogers, who's shown that he can be an ace if you need him to be, Bradish, who is an ace, and Shane Baz, whose repertoire and his triple-digit fastball suggests that he is an ace in the making and still under team control for 3 years. You have one more piece like that, and this team is going to fly. I also like what you said when you said that you have to fend off the Yankees and the Blue Jays, because in my opinion, the Yankees and the Blue Jays are the top competition for the Orioles this year. And before we get into that, today's show is brought to you by Project Game Day. Pressbox's Project Game Day continues tomorrow following Ravens Steelers with your hosts Glenn Clark and Rita Hubbard. Special guest Ken Dallas and Andrew Stecca, and former Ravens linebacker Tyus Bowser. You can watch the show on Facebook, YouTube, or at PressBoxOnline.com/game day. Project Game Day is brought to you by 1-800-GAMBLER, Costas Inn and Live Casino and Hotel. Ravens Steelers tomorrow, Griffin. How you feeling about that? It's for the division. Sunday Night Football.
Is it possible to feel like both confident and extremely nervous at the same time? Like, I don't know if that's, is there a word for that feeling? Like I like Lamar Jackson's playing, so I feel a lot better about that. And Derrick Henry, as far as I know, is pretty healthy and should be able to handle another 30 carries if needed. So I feel pretty good in that sense, but it's also Pittsburgh, and anything can happen. And you got a good feeling this is going to be a 3-point game, and I've got no confidence in the Ravens kicker right now. So hopefully he proves me wrong if it does come down to a field goal. But whenever you've got Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, I like our chances.
Well, and that's the thing. The Ravens for the last 5 years, in my opinion, have been far and away better than the Steelers, of the far superior team, and yet they beat themselves.
They find a way to just pee down their leg every time they face the Steelers. Doesn't make any sense.
Every single time. And this game, although last year, towards the end of the season with the divisional line, they curb stomped them, and then they went in the playoffs, and it was like they were playing a JV team. So if the Ravens know that they could make a magical Super Bowl run if they go ahead and beat the Steelers tomorrow night. So it's either going to be one of those games where you're ripping your hair out, or we're sitting there in the third quarter and the Ravens are up by 17, and we're like, okay, this is what we needed. But we can talk about that another time, because it's time for baseball here. And let's talk about the Orioles and their main competition. You've got the Yankees and the Blue Jays, in my opinion. They're the cream of the crop, along with the Orioles. And I'm not being a homer when I say that the Orioles are the cream of the crop in the American League East, because you look at the moves that they've made combined with the talent that they already have. And there's a lot of people nationally that are picking the Orioles to win this division and potentially represent the American League in the World Series. So let's look at the Yankees first, because the Yankees 2 years ago were in the World Series. And last year, they tied Toronto for the division lead, but they were the number one wild card team because Toronto beat them in the head-to-head. I think they won the season series with them. The Yankees threaten you with singular chaos in the name of Aaron Judge. Despite what I deem to be an underwhelming supporting crew, Aaron Judge helped catapult his team last year to a major league leading 274 home runs, clearing the next best team by 30 home runs, and the major league lead in runs, clearing the next best team by 24 runs. All three 30 home run hitters in Aaron Judge, Trent Grisham, and Jazz Chisholm are under contract, but Grisham and Chisholm hit between 90 and 100 points lower than Aaron Judge's 331 batting average last year. So you get 30 home runs from those two guys, but you also get a 220, 230 batting average and a low on base percentage and a lot of strikeouts. Ben Rice should join those three in the 30 home run club. Giancarlo Stanton hit 24 home runs in 77 games. If he's healthy, he'll join them in the 30 to 40 home run club. He'll pay dividends. Paul Goldschmidt's gone. Cody Bellinger, for now, is gone. We're going to talk about Cody Bellinger a lot later in this show.
Yeah, I know you like him.
Yeah, the rotation is solid. They're anchored by Rodon and Fried, who won 18 and 19 games last year apiece. Rodon with his 3.09 ERA, Fried with his 2.94. They should
Cole's
get Garrett
back, right? Yep.
They should get Garrett Cole back by mid-season, though at 35. It remains to be seen how he will respond to Tommy John surgery, but we'd be foolish to count him out. You saw what Verlander did at 39 coming back from Tommy John surgery. So Yankees, stiff competition. They have the highest ceiling of any team in this division. And I say that meaning that Aaron Judge, when he's hot, he's good. He can get you 4 to 6 runs by himself in a given game. So you can see the Yankees on a random Tuesday night go out and beat a team 12-1. You can, but if Judge is ice cold, it impacts the rest of the lineup so much that you can see them that Wednesday night lose a game 1-0, 3-2, because Judge just can't get it done, and therefore the rest of the lineup can't help make up for his lack of support. So Yankees highest ceiling, but maybe a little bit lower floor than the Orioles. Then you go to the Toronto Blue Jays. They threaten you with rotation stability. It's wave after wave after wave of competent starting pitching. Dylan Cease has brought in 7 years, $210 million. You've got Kevin Gausman. You've got Shane Bieber. All three have been Cy Young finalists in the past. Bieber's actually won a Cy Young. You have Jose Barrios, who, when right, is a number 2. He's going to be pitching in the 3 or 4 spot. Then you have Trey Savage, who lived up to the attitude of his name suggests in the postseason. He's primed for a huge rookie season this coming year. And then offensively, Jays are solid, but George Springer, 35 years old, had a career year at 35. A drop-off is all but expected. Plus, his injury history suggests he's not going to be available for long stretches. You've got Vladimir Guerrero, who's the biggest offensive threat in that lineup. He's paid like the 2021 version of Vladdy Jr., where he hit 311, OPS north of 1,000, 48 home runs, 111 RBI. But his production since then, while solid, suggests that he's overpaid. 288, 849, 28 homer, 95 RBI averages for him over the last 5 seasons, though he's only missed 18 games since the start of the 2020 season, and he is a legitimate offensive threat. After Vladdy, unless Bichette is brought back or Kyle Tucker is brought in, next biggest threats, Addison Barger, Alejandro Kirk, and Davis Schneider. They're solid, but they lack star power. Griffin, I know I've been talking for a while here, but what happens here is I think Baltimore is the better team because they threaten you with something else entirely. They have relentless pressure. There's no shortcuts in this lineup since you've added Pete Alonso. There's no weak links. I say that because Colton Cowser has light tower power, but Colton Cowser also hit like 180 last year. He's got to be better, but overall, there's not a player in this lineup that you can pitch to with confidence if you're the opposing team. Your thoughts on my rundown of the Yankees and the Blue Jays as compared to the Orioles before we really start getting into what the Orioles need to do moving forward?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Some of the names that we don't know exactly where they're going to be yet. The Bregmans, the Kyle Tuckers, the Cody Bellingers. Like those are the 3 that I think we would not be surprised if 2 of those 3 guys each lands in New York or Toronto. So that will obviously change a lot of things. But yeah, I mean, to your point, like Toronto, all the stars aligned for them last year. Like they had a ton of guys. You mentioned George Springer having one of the best years of his career at 35. They had their pitching should be really good again this year. So I think that's obviously they had Dylan Cease. That's gonna and their bullpen was very good last year. Jeff Hoffman really came on in the second half. The Yankees are interesting just because. Yeah, there's no reason to think Aaron Judge isn't going to be Aaron Judge every single night. And when he is, and he's got enough around him, the Jazz Chisholms, the Giancarlo Stantons, when that lineup's healthy, it's almost should be expected that they're going to score 10 runs a night. So it should be a very, very, just from a baseball standpoint, a very fun division to watch from the outside looking in. But you're right about the Orioles lineup. There's in the same way that the Blue Jays, kind of had everything aligned last year, there's no way that the Orioles should have this many down years. Like Westbrook should stay healthy. Like we assume Gunnar Henderson should get back close to playing like an MVP. Adley Rutschman had far and away the worst year of his career. And then you add in, this was a team that didn't hit home runs at all last year. Their home run leader was, still Ramon Laureano, even though he only played half the year with them?
It was Westberg, right, Henderson, and Holiday with 17 home runs each.
Okay. Yeah, so Laureano and O'Hearn were the leading for a while.
Yeah.
They didn't hit home runs last year, so they come in and they add Pete Alonso and they add Taylor Ward. Like all of a sudden they've got those vertical threats that can put the ball over the fence. And I already mentioned Kyle Gibson was a legitimate guy that we thought could help the team last year. Like there's no Kyle Gibson in this rotation now. They have their ace back in Kyle Bradish, and they add Shane Baz, who there's still a lot of questions surrounding Baz, obviously, but you add him when you're not leaning on him as a number 1. That changes a lot of things. So I don't want to read ahead, but yeah, it feels like, because I feel like we can almost expect that the Blue Jays and the Yankees are each going to add another bat. So it feels like the Orioles got to make their move. Go get Ranger. Go get or Fromber. It sounds like, as you mentioned already, they're more tied to Ranger at the moment. I guess that's because he's younger. You think that's why?
Actually, I think Valdez is younger.
Oh, really?
I think Valdez is younger. I think Valdez is 29 or 30, and I think Suarez is 31 or 32, or he might be 29. He seems like somebody. Suarez seems like somebody who is older than he actually is to me.
Yeah.
But the Orioles they're definitely
Suarez,
come. Go
Suarez is
ahead.
30. Suarez is 30. Valdez is 32.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Valdez is 2 years older.
they're
I mean,
both
it's close.
already 30, 31, 32 years old.
Mhm.
And the Orioles have come to a fork in the road with Valdez versus Suarez. Before we even talk about, we were just talking about a bat's going to be added to the Yankees, to the Blue Jays. I think the Yankees are their number. I know their number one target is Cody Bellinger. They've reportedly got a contract offer out to him. I don't know that it's going to be enough for what Boris wants for his client. I hear that he's asking for 7 years, $30 million a year. I don't think he's going to get that.
That's what Bellinger wants.
That's what I'm hearing.
Okay.
The Orioles have to decide how they want to acquire their final rotation because we all agree and we all know that's what's missing. I just randomly, by the way, looked up and saw the J.J. Hardy sliding into home picture behind me from the Delman double game, and it gave me like this cool feeling for a split second. Anyway, besides the point. Framber Valdez.
We want to feel that again. We want to feel that again.
Oh, I need
and
to
we got a
feel
good
that
feeling.
again.
Got a good feeling. This could be the year that we do feel that again.
Absolutely. So Framber Valdez, higher peak. He's got more swing and miss stuff. He can dominate a lineup by himself. He also brings volatility, walks, bullpen stress, because when he's bad, he's walking a lot of guys, giving up a lot of hard contact, and he's making you go to your bullpen by the fourth or the fifth inning. He can win games really loudly, but like I said, when he's off, games get weird, right? Ranger Suarez, elite contact suppression. He keeps games in a narrow band. He rarely blows up. High ground ball rate, built for October. He's a perfect fit for a defense first, depth heavy roster like what the Orioles have. It's weird to say that they have a defense first roster, but what Craig Albertez and that coaching staff want to do with this team is make them catch the baseball. They want to get back to the basics, back to the fundamentals, and make sure. And the players themselves have come out and said the number one thing that they want to work on in spring training is being fundamentally sound defensively. All right, Suarez isn't going to steal games for you. He's going to win games for you. He prevents your games from being stolen because he's just that consistent. I'd like to see him get deeper into games. I think his career high is like 155 innings. Love to see him crack that 170 inning threshold. But the pitcher that Suarez is, that distinction matters more than Valdez over a 162 game season, especially when you get to October. Valdez is kind of seemed to break down towards the end of the year and gives up a lot of hard contact, whereas Suarez does not. The problem with Suarez, he wants 7 years, and the contract and it's not public knowledge, but I have a source who has a source who has a source who has told me that the contract offer to Suarez is 5 years. He's going to have to come off that 7 year asking price. The weight is up, the velocity's down the last 3 years. Not a good trend for somebody who's already 30 years old. If he wants 7 years, he's going to be sitting on that free agent market for the foreseeable future, well into spring training, I'd imagine. With that in mind, Adit says, if Ranger Suarez is willing to wait until spring training before backing down from his 7 year demand, do you put more effort in a Tucker negotiation and put more effort in a trade for Peralta? Griffin, this is how I feel about that. Sorry, hang on. My notes are on 2 different pages. The Orioles don't have what it takes to get Freddie Peralta because
unless they're willing to part with, somebody that
Jackson Holiday.
Yeah.
Jackson Holiday is the only player.
Peralta's 1 year. This is a 1 year deal for Peralta, right?
Yeah, he's a rental.
Would it be Holiday? Would it be that much?
It would, and I'll tell you why.
Just because of how the Burns trade went?
No, it would be Holiday because they're not going to trade Peralta without getting a top prospect. That's why he's still out there. If they were just willing to trade him for anything, he'd be on another team by now. They want a top prospect. They want Jackson Holiday, and I'll tell you why they want Jackson Holiday. They don't need Kobe Mayo or Ryan Mountcastle because they have Andrew Vaughn at first base. And they don't need one of those guys to DH because they've got Christian Yelich under contract and they're paying him $24 million a year. They have one of the best young outfields in baseball. They're solid at all three outfield spots with depth behind them that's solid. So if you're thinking Beavers or Kowser, that's not going to get it done. They're set at first, they're set at second, they're set at third. Every single spot in the lineup had an OPS above 700 last year, except at shortstop. Joey Ortiz was their everyday shortstop, and his OPS 599. Jackson Holliday is the only piece the Orioles have that the Brewers are willing to listen to. They don't need anybody else that the Orioles are willing to offer. They don't need Kowser. They don't need Mayo. They don't need Mountcastle. They don't need Beavers. They need Jackson Holliday. Unless the Orioles are willing to give him up, they're hanging up the phone on him. The Orioles, if they were willing to trade Jackson Holliday, it weakens this team. It weakens this team because they would need to trade Jackson Holliday. They would need to be sure that they can sign Peralta to an extension, and then they would still have to go out and sign an Alex Bregman or a Bo Bichette. Because if you trade Jackson, you're probably moving Westberg to second base, or you're starting Jeremiah Jackson at second base, or you're starting Jeremiah Jackson at third base. And I don't think the Orioles want to do that.
No.
So like it just doesn't make sense for this team to trade for Freddie Peralta. It makes more sense for them to wait till he's a free agent and try and blow him away with an offer next year if they can outbid the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, the Cubs, which I don't know that they can.
They outbid the Mets, right? So
yeah, well that's true, but the Mets, and they outbid the Red Sox. The Mets weren't willing, didn't even make an offer to Alonso. So
I guess
it would count. It would take Jackson Holliday to get Peralta. I don't think that's the move. I think the move is Mackenzie Gore. I think the move is to trade for Mackenzie Gore. He's got 2 years of team control. He's got elite ace stuff. He's got great swing and miss stuff. Really fell off a cliff after May of last year, and I think it's because they needed him to do too much. And I also don't think, getting back to Adit's comment here, I don't think that it's Kyle Tucker that would be coming into the Baltimore Orioles, because he's the best hitter on the market, but he's not the best fit for the Orioles. We'll get to that in a second. If you all missed anything from Glenn Clark Radio this week, including conversations with Noah Eagle, 5-star Maryland football signee Zion Ely, is that how you pronounce it?
Zion Ely.
Zion Ely, and their annual holiday drinking spectacular. I was there. You can find that and more in the Glenn Clark Radio Weekend Review feature at PressBoxOnline.com. You can also find Griffin's beautiful face on Glenn Clark Radio. And as always, watch or listen to GCR every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. at PressBoxOnline.com/radio, or right here on PressBox's Facebook and YouTube pages. So for the Orioles, the starting pitching, the Orioles don't have to choose between Valdez or Suarez if they don't want to, and it's because they have a surplus of bats if they fix one roster constraint first. And that roster constraint is the outfield. The outfield is, look, they brought in Taylor Ward. He hit 36 home runs last year. Dylan Beavers looked like he can really be something at the big league level. That OPS, nobody walked more than Beavers once he got called up in baseball, really.
Which was crazy. I know. He was walking more than Juan Soto.
Yeah, it was. Dylan Beavers looked like the real deal. It slowed down towards the end of September, but that's because he's never played that many games before, and he's still a rookie this year. You have Colton Cowser, who's 175 strikeout guy every year, can't hit anything but a fastball. Great defender in left field, okay defender in center field, crazy strong arm, but not accurate. And in my opinion, he's playing out of position playing center field. And that's where he's going to be if the Orioles don't do anything else. And then you have Tyler O'Neill, who's going to split right field duties with Dylan Beavers, and O'Neill can't stay on the field. And when he is on the field, he ain't that dude that was a 2-time Gold Glover out in St. Louis.
Yeah, he's got a good arm, but that's
he's got a good arm, but I mean, how fast can a Mack truck really run? you know? So
Yeah.
this is where I said we're going to get back to this. This is where Cody Bellinger comes in and why it matters. Cody Bellinger is the better fit for the Orioles than Kyle Tucker. Despite Kyle Tucker being the better hitter, Bellinger is a more valuable player. He plays all three outfield spots at an above average level, including center field, where he will become your everyday center fielder. He plays above average defense at first base, which means he can spell Pete Alonso if you want to DH Pete Alonso sometimes, keep his legs fresh for later in the season. His left-handed power bat plays perfectly for Camden Yards and that right field out of town scoreboard, and he hits left-handed pitching. He doesn't hit left-handed pitching at the same clip that Kyle Tucker does, but he hits it well enough that you can play him every single day. But the bat, only part of it, what it really comes down to is how much he elongates the roster. Pete Alonso can DH more. He stays fresh. Cowser slides in. Cowser is so important here. Cowser slides into a complementary, matchup-driven role. And what I mean by that is you can high Colton Cowser. You don't need to play Cowser every day against a lefty that's going to blow it by him or some guy who's crafty, throws a lot of junk that Cowser can't hit. Cowser can be deployed at will when you absolutely need him. Somebody who can hit a fastball and a fastball at bat. Somebody who can go in and play good defense for you late in games. You can start Cowser a couple of times a week, and it just makes him an overall better player because it hides his weaknesses and it gives him more confidence. The defensive flexibility by adding a Bellinger impacts the outfield that much more because then you get better defense in center field and in turn better defense in left field because you're moving Cowser to left field and he comes in as defensive replacement for Taylor Ward because Ward's going to play just about every day. I know people love Colton Cowser. He's got Cowser's corral. He's got his own section, right? I know people love
the pasture. Yeah.
Well, he has the pasture, but the Orioles actually did Cowser's corral.
Oh, that's
they
right.
actually gave him Cowser's corral.
When they had Kevin Brown mooing on the broadcast.
Yeah, and their ushers in that section were wearing cow ears and everything.
Right.
Here's the thing that people need to come to understand about Colton Cowser. At this point in his career, and it's weird to say because he's only entering his third full season, he has turned himself into a fourth outfielder. And it's up to him to turn that around. But you have a guy who took 5 combined hot weeks in 2024 into a second place rookie of the year finish, and a guy who despite hitting 16 home runs in like 85 games last year, he still struck out 40% of the time. That is not good. That is, you can't have that. It's up to Cowser to prove that he belongs in the lineup every single day. But for right now, with what you have out there, he's got to be a fourth outfielder for you. He can't be an everyday player for you. Bellinger helps unlock him and helps get him that confidence, helps get him back on that trajectory where he can be an everyday player, if not here, then for somebody else. But the most important thing, go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm talking all day.
Yeah. Well, it's just I love everything you're saying. I love adding another frontline starter. I love adding a Cody Bellinger. How many more moves can this Orioles team make? Like, is it just a starter that they either trade for or sign? Is it just a Cody Bellinger? I'm not sure how many more moves they can make. And I think I'm in the camp where I'd rather see them acquire a frontline starter. And so do they, can they, but to your point, like Cody Bellinger is obviously a coveted free agent right now. And so they can't really sit on their hands and wait for the pitching market to continue to develop. And I mean, I'd love to have Cody Bellinger. I think that, they're a team that I don't know what the Leody Taveras signing really means, if he's actually going to play a whole lot, but I could definitely see him potentially trying to platoon Leody Taveras in center field, or do they go out and get a much more what's the word I'm looking for, like affordable center fielder like Harrison Bader, who then you truly can platoon with Cowser in center field with the left right. I would love to see Cody Bellinger, come here, but I think that they have. I think when you look at the Blue Jays and the Yankees lineup, I think that they need to have a starter every night that can shut them down.
Well, and that's the thing. And by the way, I didn't look at my watch because I felt like you were talking too long. I got a buzz, and my watch is right there, so I just turned and I looked at what the notification was. So I don't want you to feel like if I had seen that and I were you, I would have been like, "Am I talking too much?" No, like it was. I got a notification. Well, no, and that's the thing. I posted this video last week where I said I think the Orioles are going to go out and trade for Mackenzie Gore, and I think they're going to bring in one of the top bats that's left on the market. Okay. I also said they could trade Holiday for Peralta and then bring in a Bo Bichette. The Orioles are still $12 to $13 million under last year's payroll. They said they were willing to go into the red this year to make this team a World Series contender. If they're talking luxury tax red, the red for the luxury tax, which is that first tier, is $244 million. So they're still about $80 million under that. In $90 million under that $244 million luxury tax threshold. I don't think they need to get to that point, but if they go out there and let's say they spend $30 million, let's say Bellinger wants $30 million a year, but for 6 or 7 years. Let's say the Orioles give him $35 million for 4 or 5 years, right? Maybe even $40 million. It gets their payroll up around $200 million. They bring in a Cody Bellinger. Now they have no need for Kobe Mayo. They have no need for Ryan Mountcastle. Right now, they need Ryan Mountcastle because he's the best defensive first baseman on the team. And if Pete Alonso goes down or they need a defensive replacement late in the game, and let's say Pete Alonso's already batted in the 8th inning and they've got a 1 or 2 run lead and they need good defense, they need that defensive first baseman. If you have Cody Bellinger, you don't need Mountcastle. You don't need Mayo. And they help you. They approve it. Mountcastle is, despite what some people may say, he's a proven big league hitter who's got multiple 20 home run seasons under his belt and plays good defense. Kobe Mayo had a great September. He's a top prospect, and he has 30 to 40 home run potential at the big leagues. You can package that to go out there and get a Mackenzie Gore. Now you've addressed starting pitching because on the cheap, because Mackenzie Gore is still arbitration eligible and under team control for 2 more seasons. So now you've addressed another starting pitcher with incredible upside, and you've added another potent bat to an already potent lineup. Aaron Judge is worth 10 WAR by himself. You need 2 players. You're going to need 2 players between Rutschman, Gunnar, Jackson, Westberg to combine or Alonso to combine for 11 WAR to outdo what Aaron Judge does by himself. When you put it in that frame of reference, it's like Bellinger helps you do that. He gives you defensive versatility. He elongates your lineup. He gives you roster flexibility. He gets a lot of dudes rest. Tyler O'Neill doesn't have to play every day in the outfield if Cody Bellinger's out there. He can DH for you.
Never.
Yeah. Pete Alonso doesn't have to play first base 6 days a week. He can DH twice a week, keep himself fresh for the second half of the season, the dog days of summer, and ultimately October. Bellinger elongates this roster. He makes the roster better defensively, and he's no slouch offensively. And he allows you to go get another. Let's not make a mistake here. You can have ace-like stuff and not be an ace. Okay. Mackenzie Gore, Shane Baz, they've got all the talent and ability in the world to be a number 1 in a rotation, but they haven't done it yet. They're both young. They're both under team control. They both have that upside that makes you want to take a chance on that. And starting pitching is contagious. When a starting rotation gets going, next man up does not want to be the one who lets things falter. And we saw that with the 2014 Orioles when guys like Bud Norris and Miguel Gonzalez and Chris Tillman were pitching to 3.5 ERAs because they just got on a roll. and that team's rotation ERA was 3.61 for 2014. But there wasn't an ace on that entire staff, right? You've got legitimate aces on the staff and guys with legitimate ace upside who have more talent than anybody on that team in 2014 had. You bring in a young Mackenzie Gore, you have a young Shane Baz, Kyle Bradish, Trevor Rogers, and Zach Eflin now becomes your number 4, your number 5. You go to war with that rotation and that Orioles lineup day in and day out. That floor is now, if the floor is down here, that floor is now up here. Right. And the ceiling is that much higher. Cody Bellinger, I said it last season that the Orioles, the right-handed bat that the Orioles needed was Pete Alonso. The free agent that makes the most sense for them is Cody Bellinger. He still, even after Alonso, makes the most sense for this team for the multitude of reasons.
Yeah. I mean, I love the way you lay all that out. You mentioned Mountcastle. Well, I feel like there's so many things. Like, would the Nationals be willing to trade with the Orioles? Like I mean, obviously, they should, but like, how much of that is? Like, is a new ownership? Does that make that relationship more?
The Nationals left Masson for a national broadcaster. The Rays just traded one of their best young starting pitchers to the Orioles. We saw the Cleveland Browns trade Joe Flacco to the Cincinnati Bengals. Derek Queen left Baltimore, went to Pittsburgh. There wasn't a trade there, but like, this is baseball. And if a trade that the Nationals can make with the Orioles is the best fit to make the Nationals a better team sooner, I don't think it matters who the trade partner is. Dylan Atkinson says 100% agree. Dylan, cut the X, my friend. 100% agree on the Mackenzie Gore talk. Realistically, the Nationals are the best fit for Kobe Mayo type trade. No, the Orioles wouldn't have found a proven ace this offseason, but they will have made 3 absolute upgrades to the rotation. And they will have made 3 absolute upgrades to the rotation, and we'll have 3 to 4 young pitchers on staff with incredible upside in 2026. Dylan and I are on the same page here.
Is Mayo enough for Mackenzie Gore?
Mayo and other pieces.
Yeah, you throw something similar to that Boz trade. Yeah,
I mean, because who's really burning the door down in DC? Outside of like.
I mean, no one.
You can bring in a Mountcastle, a Mayo, and a Cowser or a Beavers. I don't want to throw shade at Colton Cowser because I always do.
You always have.
And I like Colton Cowser. Yeah, I like Colton Cowser. But the proof is in the pudding. I'm taking away the personal feelings about him as a person and the business feelings about him as a baseball player. And I think the talent's there, but he has been underwhelming in his career. 24 home runs was nice. A second place finish in Rookie of the Year was nice. But look at 80% of his games. He's not a good hitter. He's not a good hitter yet. But he has that upside. He's got 4 or 5 more years of team control. He and Kobe Mayo could end up anchoring a Nationals lineup for Mackenzie Gore, who's got a 4-something career ERA. He comes to the Orioles, and Mackenzie Gore comes to the Orioles and pitches to a 3.20 ERA over the next 2 years, or 3.50 ERA over the next 2 years, and wins, let's say, 23 games over those 2 seasons. And Colton Cowser hits 220 but hits 30 home runs, and Kobe Mayo hits 230 but hits 30 home runs. Are the Nationals going to say, man, we shouldn't have made that trade? No, they're going to be loving it. Their fans are going to be loving it. They're going to see light tower power from both sides of the plate between these two guys. I think it's a win-win for both teams, and it gives the Orioles, like I said, Bradish is an ace, Gore can be an ace, and Baz can be an ace. And Trevor Rogers can have ace-like stretches. It makes too much sense not to do, but that doesn't mean they're going to do it. No. Me thinking it's what they should do and then actually doing it, the only reason I am even leaning that they will do it is because I think it makes too much sense not to.
I think, you're right. And they may even, I still feel like they may even have to throw one other thing. Like, I think these teams can just point at Cowser and Mayo and the struggles they've had at the big leagues and force the Orioles hand to have to throw in something else. Like what was your thoughts on the Boz trade? Did you think that was an overpay? Was that I mean, if Shane Boz becomes, he's got the stuff. Like it's hard to. I feel like in that way, I'm similar to Mike Elias, where wow, this guy throws 99 miles per hour. That's definitely a guy you think you want on your team. And obviously, and all those prospects are so unproven. Like, who knows what they are? So I was pretty excited about that trade, just to see them, being willing to do something like that.
So my thoughts on it, when you see what the Orioles gave up, you look at what they gave up and you say, that's a haul that the Rays just got. They got essentially 4 first-round picks for Shane Boz. When you look at the 3 players that got traded there, and the competitive balance pick that got traded there, they essentially got 3 first-round picks. I'm sorry, 4 first-round picks.
Yeah, or it was like 3, or it was 5 top 40, is that, or 4 top 40 picks, right?
Yeah. So, because the competitive balance picks are considered first-round picks.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what they got for Shane Boz. So at first you're like, holy crap. But then you look at the fact, let me just answer this question real quick. Jabba wants to know, where's Pigtown Sports?
I'm not good enough.
The shirt's good enough. Love the shirt. Zach's kid had a birthday party he had to go to or something like that this morning. So Griffin's joining us. But what Boz can do, the numbers don't look like he was great last year. He had 9 starts where he gave up 5 runs or more. 7 of them came playing at George Steinbrenner Field, which is a spring training complex and essentially a minor league ballpark. The dimensions are.
And it was 100. It was 100 degrees every night.
Yeah, like, he was pitching. I mean, you saw when the Orioles played the Rays last season, the heat index was like 105 every game. You saw how drenched Eflin was on the mound in the first inning. Trevor Rogers, how he was in the second inning. You saw that these guys looked like they jumped in a swimming pool in full uniform. 11 of the 18 home runs that Boz gave up last year came at Steinbrenner Field. His home ERA was like 2 full runs higher than this road ERA, which is like 380 something. You factor that. You factor the fact that, yes, he was 2 years removed from Tommy John surgery, but he only made a handful of starts. I think it was I can't remember how many starts. Yeah. In 24, he only made, I think it was like 14 or less starts. Then last year, the stuff was still elite. It was command issues for Boz, and ended up leaving some stuff right over the middle of the plate to get hammered. Another year removed from Tommy John surgery, still young, still throwing.
And since he was healthy last year, like he made 31 starts last year. Like maybe he didn't quite go into the 6th or 7th inning each time, but he made 31 starts, and I think that was extremely encouraging.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. 31 starts, a year and a half removed from Tommy John surgery. He threw 166 innings last year. I know that my video is delayed. Jabo said my video is delayed. Yeah, I don't know how to fix it. So hopefully just the words I'm saying are helpful, although I do know it's annoying to hear somebody's words before their mouth moves. That sucks. But yeah, so my confidence in Boz is very high. And I think another year removed, coming into this rotation, not having to be the top of the rotation guy, getting to slot in somewhere in the middle of the rotation, I think it's a coup for the Orioles. I really do, and I'm excited to see what he can be moving forward. It's hard to say it's an overpay or that it's not an overpay because Caden Bodine isn't going to reach the majors for a couple of years. Austin Slater is not going to reach the majors for 4 years. That competitive balance pick they gave up isn't going to reach the majors for 5 or 6 years. So
Michael Ferret seemed like the one, just because everyone, the Orioles are such shallow in pitching in the farm system. So It felt like that was almost the one that I was most upset about having to.
I think everybody was. I think everybody was most upset with that. But you got to give up something to get something. Right. And you still have Trey Gibson. And look, if you're bringing in, if you've got two young guys in Boz and then hopefully Mackenzie Gore that you bring in that are in their mid-20s and still under team control for the next couple of years, you've got young pitching right there. And maybe you extend these guys get off to hot starts and you extend them before they hit free agency because they still have a couple of years before they get there. You extend them, so now instead of having them for 2 and 3 years, you've got them for 5 and 7 years. Because they were willing to sign an extension to get paid sooner and have more stability sooner. So I like the trade because it gives the Orioles something they need. It remains to be seen if what they gave up is going to be too much.
Like we won't be able to put a conclusion to this trade for a couple of years, unless of course the Orioles go out and win a World Series this year. Then it would look like they
totally
pretty much
worth
won.
it. Yeah. Adit says, there's no way that Boras would pivot from a 7-year demand for Ranger for him to take a 1 to 3 year deal somewhere else, right? Especially if the Orioles offer Ranger at least $150 over 5 years. I don't think that that's going to happen, but have you ever known Boras to back off from what he wants his free agents to do? Like, have you ever known him to back off? I think when it comes down to it,
I guess like Burns kind of, right? Like if like him wanting to take the extra years to go to for less dollars to go to Arizona.
Yeah, but the contract ended up being more.
Yeah.
Right. The contract overall ended up being more, and Boras gets paid on the full contract amount, right? And the full contract amount was like $240 million,
something,
something like that. Whereas the Orioles offered, I think, 4 years and $180 million. So, so I think that when free agents like Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery a couple of years ago, when they do sign those deals late in spring training, I think it ends up being the player going to the agent and saying, I got to get myself ramped up and ready to play. I'm playing baseball somewhere this year. Let's take this deal. Let's make this. Let's take a make good deal, lesser years, higher average annual value, and then with an option, and then retest the market. I don't think Valdez is taking a 1 to 3 year deal unless it gives him an opt out after each year, and then he can go out and retest the market. He's not getting 7 years. Dylan Cease shouldn't have gotten 7 years. So what I look at there is if he wants 7 years, he's gonna be sitting well into February on the free agent market, and I'm quite content with the Orioles going out and trading for a younger pitcher with higher upside and then bringing in another big bat. Do I think they will? Probably not. But like that's a pretty specific prediction to make.
Yeah.
That's a pretty specific prediction to make.
Yeah, and maybe it's not Gore, but there's some other guy we're not thinking of that the no one saw Shane Baz as a move that the Orioles was on anyone's radar. So I mean, like they're very capable of going out and surprising us, but also still going along the lines of what we think is a smarter move to make. So Valdez, you don't think Valdez? You don't think Valdez? What does Valdez want? Like, I guess that's the question. I like Valdez. I think more than Ranger, and I think I like Valdez more than you as well. I just like that he has the ability. He's gone 200 innings before. He's gone close to 200 innings. He's made almost 30 starts each of the last 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got postseason experience. I feel like he's the type of guy that this team needs, especially with that postseason experience. And I mean, even if there were to be opt-outs each year, is that something they should be willing to do, like and go all in on Framber?
Well, I don't think that somebody like a Framber Valdez is taking a deal that has opt-outs unless the market just completely dries up for him.
Mm-hmm.
And he ends up having to take one of those 1 to 3 year deals with opt-outs after each season. If he's going to sign for 5 to 7 years, there's probably not going to be an opt-out unless it's after like year 3, right? What I want to know about Valdez, and you're right, 2022 31 starts, 23 31 starts, 24 28 starts, 25 31 starts. You're looking at 201, 198, 176. 192 innings pitched each of the last 4 years, right? You love that about Valdez. I want to know, and let me pull up his splits real quick. I want to know why Valdez went from, where is it? Sorry. I want to know why he went from a 2.36 ERA in May, 1.74 in June, 2.16 in July, to 5.64 in August and 6.51 in September. That's when you want your starting pitchers to be pitching their best for you. Is in August and September when you're in a playoff chase and you're coming down the stretch. And look, unless the Orioles win 110 games this year, they're going to be in a playoff race the entire second half of the season with the Blue Jays and the Yankees. And look, the Red Sox aren't far behind, and the Rays are always competitive every year. It's going to be a tough division. You're going to sign Framber Valdez for 5 to 7 years for $150 to $210 million. He better not be posting a 5.64 and a 6.51 ERA in the last 2 months of the season when you need him the most. So I need to know what happened there. I need to know what happened.
Yeah. I mean, could it be as simple
what happened on the cross up?
Yeah. Yeah.
What were you going to say?
Would you trust it anymore just knowing that, Elias does, have a relationship with this guy in his camp, and if I mean, so and maybe there really is something to that, in that whole cross up situation with the Houston catcher, and maybe there's literally no smoke at all for Orioles Framber Valdez, and then I guess that'd be your answer. I guess still just on the surface, when looking at a guy who is able to pitch and is available, that feels like what they need. But you're definitely onto something with the second half. I don't know. I can't make any sense of that. I mean, like, it's similar to Ryan Helsley. Like, I like, that's the only way we could try to reason it, and maybe there was he made some sort of change, and it obviously didn't work. He was tipping, but there's been no story about Framber Valdez tipping pitches. So,
Valdez, he can get erratic at times to start walking a lot of guys. He gives up a lot of hard contact. I think he gives up something like above 40% hard contact, but he gets a lot of ground balls, and that turns into a lot of double plays. And those ground balls are hard contact with somebody on base right at an infielder.
So that's deeper into games.
Yeah. So that's great, and I do like the fact that he's a workhorse. He does get deeper into games than Ranger Suarez does. The attitude issues that he may or may not have, and reports are that he has character issues in the clubhouse. The really poor performance the last 2 months when you need him the most. The fact that he's already 32 years old.
His ERA was under 2 in each of September or August and September in 2024. I don't know. I don't know what it is that, right on the verge of a contract. Obviously, it was a contract year, so the final 2 months of your contract year, I don't know why the 2 worst months, I mean, essentially, of his last 4 seasons. It is very eyebrow raising.
He's getting older. The Astros didn't make the playoffs last year. Maybe there's pressure there. Maybe there was some kind of some nagging injury that wasn't enough to keep him out of games.
Right, maybe he was pressing a lot. Like, he was the only guy that was healthy all year on that Astros rotation, right? Like, there was literally every one of their pitchers landed on the IL for extended time.
It could have been something where maybe his elbow's bothering him, maybe his shoulder was a little sore, maybe he had a little bit of dead arm because he's thrown 800 innings the last 4 years, and you're looking at somebody who is saying, I could probably benefit from a couple of missed starts, but my team is in a playoff chase, and I got to get out there every 5th day. Nobody knows. Only Framber probably knows what happened those last 2 months. But as good as he's been every other month in his career, every professional sports league is a "what have you done for me lately" league,
right.
And what he's done for you lately is pitched to us an above 6 ERA in his last 2 months that he's pitched. So, look. If the Orioles come out today and say, we just signed Framber Valdez 5 years, $180 million, I'm not going to be upset about that. That's great. I'm going to be excited. I'm going to look. They have their
just adds to the all in. Yeah, just adds into the all in mantra that we've had now since since the Pete Alonso signing, for the last month.
And I'll be the first to tell you that the Orioles making a trade for Mackenzie Gore is probably on the surface underwhelming as compared to an announcement for Ranger Suarez or Framber Valdez. I think long term it's the better move. I do. And right now, even still, the Orioles rotation is good. Is it as good as the Blue Jays? Is the top two of Kyle Bradish and Trevor Rogers as good as the top two of the Yankees, Carlos Rodon and Max Fried? I don't know. But I think the Orioles have the best offense in the American League, if not in baseball. I think that adding Alonso makes Gunnar Henderson an MVP candidate. I think you see him hit 40 home runs this year and steal 30 bases. I think that Jackson Holliday takes that step forward to being a 2020 guy this year. Westberg, if he can stay healthy, he's going to hit 30 home runs. He's going to hit 25 to 30 home runs and drive in close to 100 because the dude's just a natural born. The guy was born to drive in runs. I think that this lineup, top to bottom, is as complete a lineup as there is in baseball, simply because you added Pete Alonso and he offers that much protection to the rest of the lineup. It's just they're not done. They're not done. Do they want to go out and spend 35 million on a pitcher that they're not sure about, or do they want to go trade? Do they want to go bring in another bat and then trade from their surplus of outfielders and infielders, outfielders and first basemen, to bring in a guy who is young and under team control, who can be just as good as the two guys, if not better than the two guys that are already out there? I think that's the smarter move. I think that that's what builds your roster to the ultimate level that it can be at, and I think that that's the final piece that makes the Orioles from World Series contender to World Series favorite. So
yeah, you paint a pretty good picture, Paul. I gotta say, I like. I still think both would be good, though. I think because you'd still have a Framber or a Ranger in theory for more years than you would a Mackenzie Gore. And then you still have the depth to this lineup. And maybe Kobe Mayo and Colton Cowser aren't at this current moment not guys that you can build, that you can put that can anchor a World Series lineup. But after playing behind a Pete Alonso for a little bit, after playing behind Taylor Ward for a little bit, they can kind of it'll take a lot of pressure off of their shoulders as well. And I don't know how much pressure there is on Kobe Mayo and Colton Cowser last year, and obviously Gunnar and Adley as well. But obviously Gunnar and Adley are staying in the lineup; they're not going anywhere. But I still think I think of Framber. I mean, I'd be happy with anything. I'd be happy if they add another frontline starter. It's going to be hard for me to poke giant holes in it, because obviously they're putting all their chips in, and that's what we've wanted for decades. So
exactly.
I'm not going to be
where we're sitting right now. Where we are sitting right now is someplace we've never been. I know for a fact it's someplace you've never been in your lifetime. Really, how old are you now?
I'm 25.
You're 25, right? So you were born in 2000.
In 2000,
right? So you look.
So 2012 and 2014 were my first tastes of winning.
So you weren't really of the right age to understand what it meant to finally see the Orioles bring in Javi Lopez, Miguel Tejada, and Rafael Palmeiro in the same offseason.
That was what, 04?
That was right before the 04 season. That 2004 Orioles offense scored almost 800 runs. They were one of the best offenses of my lifetime.
Was that the year Tejada drove in like 150?
Yeah, he hit 34 home runs, drove in 150. Jeez. Javi Lopez hit over 300 with 27 home runs, something like that. Palmeiro hit 23 home runs. They couldn't pitch. They couldn't pitch to save their lives. But we saw it in the mid 90s. I remember the 96 and 97 Orioles. They brought in Roberto Alomar, Mike Borda, Chris Davis, BJ Surhall, Bobby Bonilla. Those teams they had the highest payroll in baseball in 97 and 98. Wow. They were a top 4 payroll from 1996 through 2000. And people don't remember that. Like, I remember what it was like to live on that side of the fence. It feels like we're finally back there. Now, here's the other thing. It could be that the Orioles are looking at this, and a general manager like Mike Elias is going to be reluctant to. He's spending the money on Pete Alonso because Pete Alonso is clear and obvious what he does for your team. You're
Right.
not quite sure what the next 5 to 7 years of Valdez and Suarez look like. And when you look at next year's free agent pitching market with Tarek Skubal and Freddie Peralta, does he want to spend money now on these kinds of pitchers, or does he want to go spend money next year on a Peralta or a Skubal? And I'm not saying that the Orioles are going to swim in those waters with the other guys, but maybe Elias is more akin to make another trade right now, have young controllable pieces in Baz and let's say a Mackenzie Gore and Kyle Bradish, and maybe you let Rogers walk. Maybe you don't pick up that $25 million option on Eflin, and you go bring in another one of these guys, another one of these guys who there's no question they're an ace. There's no question about it.
Right.
It's not what you used to do. It's what I know you're going to do. That's Skubal. That's Peralta. You really can't say that about Framber and about Suarez. So the free agent pitching class is very top heavy. It's top heavy this year because there's only two guys. Zach Gallen is like a very distant third. Next year, no matter who would be in that free agent class, the top two guys are the top two guys. Think about if Framber and Ranger Suarez were free agent pitchers next year, they'd be third, fourth on the list. They'd probably be, seventh or eighth best overall free agent because of who's available next year. So I'm very interested to see what's going to happen. I think something's going to happen here sooner rather than later. Spring training is only about a month away at this point because they do report a little bit earlier because of the World Baseball Classic. But the Orioles rotation right now looks strong to me. It just needs to get a little bit stronger. You need to shore it up somehow, some way, somehow.
So let's say they don't get a Framber, a Ranger, or even a Gore. It's their. So I was talking to Stan yesterday, and Stan mentioned he likes the idea of Lucas Giolito right now. Is there a Giolito or a Giolito adjacent that you think could still help this team, or is that just kind of a meh signing at this point? If assuming they miss out on a Framber and Gore and Ranger.
I don't hate Giolito, but you need, and Stan has said it many times, he's quoted Jim Henneman many times as saying you need 10, 11, 12 starting pitchers in spring training because you're not going to get through your season with the same 5 people in your rotation. Right.
Eric Fetty is still out there.
I keep him far, far away from the Orioles. Far away from the Orioles. I don't hate Giolito. I don't love him. I don't think he makes you better. I think he's more of the same. Especially at this point in his career. If Zach Eflin is ready for...
He's what? He's Dean Kramer at this point?
Yeah, and you already have Dean Kramer, who's under control a lot cheaper through 2028. I'm sorry, for the next 2 years. If they don't get Framber or Suarez and they aren't able to swing a trade or don't want to swing a trade, do you just add another bat, give yourself some offensive firepower, and go to war with a rotation top to bottom of Bradish, Rogers, Eflin, Baz, and Kramer in some order? I think that's a pretty good rotation. It's far better than what it was last year.
Well, that's where I have to side with Stan a little bit as well, though, is that I love the idea of that 5 in that order. But something's gonna happen. Someone's gonna get nicked an elbow, and they're gonna miss probably 2 months. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully everyone is healthy and prosperous the entire year. Mm-hmm. But it's gonna happen where someone ends up on the IL, and we're missing them for several months. Like
But the other thing is
that's just what's going to happen.
Lucas Giolito is a guy that's going to want to come in and start every fifth day. Is he going to pitch in the minors till you need him? You know.
So you're more comfortable. So you'd be more comfortable with the Tyler Wells being that sixth guy, that sixth guy swing man.
Yeah, because
if there's a bump, if there's an injury, or I mean, I'm sure there'll be scenarios where, I guess we don't know Albernaz's tendencies too much, but I'm sure there's a situation, a few weeks where they want to go to a 6-man rotation.
Maybe. I mean,
if assuming health, right? Like, yeah.
Can you piggyback? Can you piggyback a Rogers and a Povich, or a Povich and a Brandon Young, or a Wells and a Suarez, if Suarez somehow makes your team out of spring training after signing that minor league deal? There's ways for this to be done. You know, the 5 guys that you've got for your rotation right now are 5 legitimate big league pitchers. You know, they're 5 legitimate big league pitchers. But here's the thing. I don't foresee a scenario in which the Orioles don't bring in another starter that's of the ilk of the original that we talked to. I don't think that they can. I don't think Giolito fits the bill for what they're trying to do. So I don't think that there's a scenario in which they don't bring in one of these guys, especially with how many people they've been linked to. But I'm also not a general manager. I like to play one on TV, but I'm not one, and so And yeah, Jabo, you are absolutely correct. As we learned last year, you need depth, and then you need some more depth. Some of these guys have options. Take advantage of that. That's true too. But like, if they're all pitching well, how do you justify to any of them you can't be in a rotation right now?
Yeah.
So it is a number crunch, a roster crunch, a brain pretzel that I am glad I don't have to deal with. Now, if they wanted to pay me millions of dollars to deal with it, I'd be happy to do it. But I'm glad I don't have to deal with it. You'll be glad, too, if you go pick up PressBox's annual Best Of issue, which is available now, celebrating the top people, performances, and moments of the year in Baltimore sports, including our Mo Gaba Sports Person of the Year, Ravens safety Kyle Hamilton. Love that, by the way. You can find the new issue for free all throughout the region, including now at all Baltimore area High's Dairy stores, or you can read the entire issue at PressBoxOnline.com. Let's talk about Zach Eflin a little bit before we get out of here. Eflin comes back, 1-year deal. I think what is it?
It's like, there's a mutual option, right?
Yeah, so I think it's $5 million deal, $3 million signing bonus, and a $2 million mutual option. So he's guaranteed to make $10 million this year.
Got it.
Then the option is, I'm sorry, it's a $2 million buyout. So he's guaranteed to make $10 million this year. Then he has incentives. If he gets an extra, I can't remember off the top of my head, but he can get,
$1 million for 50 starts. Yeah, $1 million,
$2 million for 20, and $3 million, and then 2.5 for 25.
Yeah. Unless those are the 27.
So
unless those are the 27.
His option.
That might be. No, I think those are this year. Yeah.
So, yeah, those are incentives that he can hit.
Yeah.
But I saw the breakdown where they'll be added onto. I think they're added onto his option. I think they're added onto his option for 27. So if the option's picked up, he can make $30 million next year, or the buyout can be for $7 million next year, essentially. So the option itself is for $25 million for next year, and it can go up to 30. The buyout's $2 million. It can go up to $7 million for next year.
I mean, we'd be in pretty good shape if he makes himself worth $25 million this year. We'd be in pretty good shape.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the other thing is if Zach Eflin makes himself worth $25 million next year, does Zach Eflin? You're not gonna.
Well, you find a way to give him multiple years. Well, maybe we scrap whatever the option is, and we just restructure and extend him to something.
But if you decide not to pick up that option and you buy him out for $7 million instead, then you go spend $40 million on $30 million on a Peralta or $40 million on a Skubal. You're really only spending $10 to $15 million more than you were going to spend on Eflin.
Yeah.
To get somebody who is significantly better. The move for Eflin is so good for this team right now because it gives you a solid, dependable pitcher when he's healthy, and I believe that he is healthy. Until he shows me that he's not, he said I can only take him at his word until I see otherwise. Right? If he says he feels the best he's ever felt, he feels great. He's thrown his first bullpen on Tuesday, and he says that he expects to be ready by opening day. I have to take him at his word until I see otherwise. And that gives you a really solid starting rotation already, and it gives you the option to not have to pick up his option and spend a little bit of extra money. But do you understand what I'm saying there? Where you feel like you're spending
more for this current offseason, right? Like that's what this contract does. Yeah.
So it's look, we said that the Orioles need to bring in two starting pitchers. They did bring in two starting pitchers. They brought in Eflin, they brought in Baz. Are they going to bring in one more, or are they going to, move forward with what they have? I don't think they're done making moves. I don't think that, and I also think they need another reliever. I think the team needs another reliever. But I like the team that they've built. They're like one piece away from being the best team in the American League, in my opinion.
So I guess where do you see Bregman and Bellinger and Bichette? Where do they all end up landing?
All right. Bichette, I'm gonna do Bichette last.
Okay.
Bregman's going back to Boston. I firmly believe Bregman is going to Boston. I think that Tucker is going to Toronto. I think Tucker's going to Toronto. As much as I believe that Bellinger should end up in Baltimore, I think he's going back to the Yankees. I think Bellinger has been target number one for them since the offseason started, and I think that they're going to ultimately end up overpaying for him to bring him back in. I think that they're going to have to give him 6 years, $180+ million to get it done. I don't think he's taking 5 years. And then
which one's going to be the first domino that has to fall? Is it Tucker? I mean, it's got to be.
Bichette's waiting for Tucker to sign. Okay. So I think Tucker is actually. I think Bregman is the first domino. I think Bregman back to Boston is the first domino to fall. Then Tucker, then Bellinger, and does Bichette?
They're all going to land in the AL East.
Does Bichette make sense for Milwaukee?
Oh yeah, for sure. But how often? I mean, I guess Yelich is the one. How often do they? It's just kind of not the way that they do things. They had
the best record in baseball last year.
Yeah,
the Brewers had the best record in baseball last year with a scrappy young team that you don't need to spend a ton of money on right now. You bring in Bo Bichette to shore up the one weakness in your lineup on a team that already won the most games in baseball last year, but ran into the Dodgers in the postseason.
Right. And I'd be worried they think they're the Orioles and they don't do a whole lot they haven't done a whole lot, and they're just going to try to run it back again, and they're going to have regression. They're going to have natural regression and not be quite as good as they were last year. So, I mean, Bichette makes a lot of sense, but is it something they actually do?
Does Bichette make sense for Cleveland if he's willing to go play second base? He's playing second base for Cleveland right now. Let's figure this out, because Cleveland snuck into the postseason last year after, they looked dead in the water middle of the year. They ran into the Orioles, took care of business against them, and they ended up winning the division over the Tigers by 1 game and getting into the postseason.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to the Tigers.
So Gabriel Arias played 129 games as their main shortstop, hit .220 with a .638 OPS.
Yeah, so why couldn't he play shortstop, right?
Daniel Schneemann, their everyday second baseman, 206 with a .636. Bichette makes a lot of sense for the Cleveland Guardians. Makes a lot of sense for the Cleveland Guardians. I'm going to say that the Blue Jays are all in on Tucker. So Bichette, they're not signing both he and Bichette. So they're all in on Tucker. Yankees are all in on Bellinger. Red Sox are all in on Bregman. And I'm going to say that the Milwaukee Brewers come out and blow away Bichette and bring him in to play shortstop for them, turning Joey Ortiz into what he should be, which is a utility infielder.
I'd
And
be happy if
it
that
a run.
happens. Get as many of these guys out of the AL East as we can. Unfortunately, I guess you're just replacing him with Kyle Tucker, and that doesn't help us a whole lot.
And then the next show after Tucker signs with the Blue Jays, we'll be talking about how he's an old 30 and his legs are getting heavy. And
he was injured. He was beat up last year. Yeah, he wasn't healthy last year.
Exactly. So, man, honestly, it's going to be fun. I mean, we've got 5 weeks until spring training starts.
Now, if that does happen, I mean, I think I am more and more of the idea that we have if Bellinger, Bregman, and Tucker all end up in the AL East, then the Orioles have to add another. I think they have to add another top end arm just because you can't. These are lineups that are going to be trying to blast the ball out of the ballpark and scoring runs every 7, 8, 9 runs every night, at least capable of it. Like, they have to be able to contend. You can't risk having to start Cade Povich against one of those teams.
You absolutely cannot. And again, I firmly believe, last week I really thought Suarez isn't budging off 7 years. Fromber wants 7 years. The Orioles don't want to give 7 years to either one of them. I firmly believe the Orioles are going to trade for 4.
Yeah, the good news is, I guess, apparently nobody wants to give them 7 years, right? So that they hopefully come down at some point and get more into a range where they're affordable until the Dodgers come in, obviously, and give them 10 years, right?
Dude, I hate the Dodgers. I used to have a Dodgers hat that I wore all the time in my mid-20s. I hate the Dodgers, man.
It's very quick.
What's that?
I mean, it's very quickly how they became how we clearly see that they are bad. That I felt like when they weren't winning World Series, it was like, it's 10 o'clock. That they're the team that's on. They have the great players. I like watching Dodgers, late at night, and now they clearly don't lose and they sign everyone. So it's quickly gotten old. You're right.
And that's the thing. I look at the team that they have, and individually, I love Freddie Freeman.
Right. Mookie Betts is a great guy.
Mookie Betts. I love Teoscar Hernandez. I love Will Smith. I love Chris Taylor. I like Shohei. I'm not a huge Shohei guy. I'm not
he's just he's just incredible. That's all.
He's just so good. And forgive the vernacular here, but if you continuously ram something down my throat, I'm not gonna like it. I'm gonna push back on it. And he is rammed down our throats 24/7, 365.
Well, he kind of has earned that distinction.
He absolutely has. It's also because he's a video game cheat code, right? Yeah. That's what he is. He's that guy that when we were all 12 years old playing MLB The Show, or in my case, 12 years old playing MLB 98 or whatever the hell it was back then.
2K something? Yeah. Was it?
No, I was born in 84, man. Try, 96. Triple play baseball 96, we'll say. And we're creating the guy who's 7 feet tall and a 99 overall in everything.
Hits the ball 500 feet, strikes out 10 guys.
That's Shohei freaking Ohtani. You know what I mean? Like, he is the most gifted baseball player that we've ever seen. But I also don't think that there's a snowball's chance in hell that he isn't guilty of the gambling stuff that his interpreter took the fall for.
Yeah, Izuhara.
That guy took a light sentence. Took a sentence and got paid generational wealth by Ohtani and his team to keep hush hush about this. That's my opinion. You'll never change my mind on it. And maybe that's why, I don't hate Ohtani, but I'm not all about him like 90% of the world is. But the Dodgers, the individual players, I like them. The team as a whole, no team should be able to go out there and spend $500 million to pay every single good player to come here. I used to play in this Wednesday night baseball league. I played in the Susquehanna Semi-Pro League back in the mid-2000s. And that league folded down here, moved up to York, because one team would go out and get every single good player to come play for them, that team still exists in my 30 and over league, and they win the championship every year, and they always win like 22-1 in the championship. It makes it not fun. Like, you want to go play baseball and have a shot to win, but you know going in that you don't have a chance to win. That's how I feel about the Dodgers. No team should be allowed to do that, And I'm one of those people that thinks it's bad for baseball, but I also love it if my team were doing it.
Right.
So,
right. And the Orioles seem like they're trying to, so it's like it's
for sure.
So then, well, I mean, I guess is that going to be our next conversation then? Is there going to be baseball played in 2027? Like, it seems inevitable that we're hitting a crossroads in terms of salary cap versus no salary cap. Players obviously don't want it. The Dodgers, there's going to be a few owners that don't want it because the Dodgers can just win the World Series every year. And then David Rubenstein has publicly said, he believes there should be a salary cap. Like,
I think more owners are on board. I think the majority of owners are on board saying that there should be a salary cap. The players' union is never going to agree to it. I think that what you're going to end up seeing is, I think they're going to compromise and have a salary floor where every team has to spend $120 million. Every team has to spend $120 million. There's no salary cap, but there's 4 different tiers of the luxury tax. And like, you don't want to get past the second tier of the luxury tax, because then you're spending more on the luxury tax than you are on your roster, essentially. They had to make that 4th tier because Steve Cohen was just spending so much money and didn't give a crap about the luxury tax threshold that they had to make the fourth tier so astronomical that it doesn't make sense to hit it. And I think he still hit it. But
I got nothing to show for it either.
Yeah, but that's like, how do you spend over $300 million on your roster and you don't even make the playoffs? That's awful. Baseball will be played in 2027. Will there be a short-term lockout? Probably, but there's too much money to be made and too much money to be lost by too much money to be made by playing and too much money to be lost by having a lockout. So
I think I 100% agree with that. Like, I think there's a lot of momentum for baseball, like right now, like as a whole. Like, I think there's more eyes on it than there ever has been in the history of baseball. And you're actually creating superstars now. You have like the Shohei Ohtani
and marketing them.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Like, and you have like Shohei Ohtani is probably the most popular athlete in the world, and he's in your sport. And if you take him off people's TV screens, that's gonna be bad for your sport. That's bad for business. So I hope you're right in that sense, that they do find a way to get it figured out.
I don't have to hope. I know I'm right. And okay. I'm not saying that to be cocky or to be arrogant. I'm saying it because there's been threats of strikes and lockouts and baseball not being played, and it's legitimately happened one time.
Right. Well, I guess that's why, I don't know. I feel like it just feels like there's more. I feel like there is just such a crossroads here, because there's like owners want the owners want a cap, and the players obviously do not. And I don't know how. It feels like there's been no progress on either side when we've known that this CBA has been expiring for years now. And
the same thing happened heading towards the 2021 offseason. And I mean, we got to March and they were like, these sides aren't close. Or February.
That was when we missed 2 weeks in April? Was that?
It was something like that, but they still played 162 games.
Yeah. They were playing 7-inning doubleheaders. That was ridiculous.
Well, that was during COVID. That wasn't because of the lockout.
Well, okay. Well, but it was that was the 2020 and 2021 season. Was that the 2 years they did that? That was.
Yes. Yeah, but 22 is when they came back from the lockout. They shortened spring training by 2 weeks. Instead of eating into the season, they shortened spring training by 2 weeks. They still played a 162 game schedule. I'm so glad that the 7-inning doubleheaders went away. I thought that was crap.
I was in college, and so I was covering Towson. I went to Towson, so I was covering Towson baseball games, and I was like, I can't believe Towson baseball is playing 2 9-inning doubleheaders while the Orioles just played 14 innings and called that a pair of games. Like, I couldn't believe.
Right, and it's cheating the fans, because the tickets didn't represent 2 7-inning games. They still paid the same price.
Maybe Camden Yards did, because no one was going to the games at the time. But yeah.
Well, there's gonna be people at Camden Yards this year, bringing in Pete Alonso, bringing in Shane Baz, Ryan Helsley, bringing Kittredge back, bringing in Taylor Ward. The Orioles are in store for a big season in Baltimore. The fans are going to be super excited. And there's at least one more move coming. I know it to be true that there's at least one more move coming to bring in a starting pitcher. I hope two more moves because I really want Bellinger in Baltimore. But we'll see if that happens.
Who is your leadoff hitter right now?
See, I'm a lot different than other people. I love the case to be made for batting Gunnar 1 and Alonso 2. You want the two best hitters on your team to get the most at bats. But I also think there's a really big argument to be made for batting them 3, 4. I think
I would not be mad at all if Gunnar Henderson is the leadoff hitter, and he leads off 150 games this year. I think that would be a really good recipe for this team's success.
Gunnar batting first and Alonso batting second is a really great scenario. What I think is going to happen, I think that's what's going to happen. Honestly, people keep talking about, do you bat Ward second? Do you bat Ward third? If Ward bats higher than fifth, we're doing something wrong here. But Ward is a 5 hitter. He's a 5 hitter. If Rutschman bats higher than sixth, we're doing something wrong here. The only way that you bat those guys higher than fifth and sixth in the order is if you have Gunnar batting first and second. So but I think Westberg's your 2 hitter.
I think so too. I like Gunnar, Westberg, Alonso. Basayo, is that?
Basayo has to earn hitting fourth, and I don't think there's a world in which you separate Gunnar and Alonso because Alonso unlocks Gunnar. But Alonso absolutely.
So do you lead off Westberg? What if Westberg's your leadoff guy? Then?
No, he doesn't walk enough. I think you lead off Beavers. Wow. I think you lead off Beavers.
Wow, I'd be all in on that. I mean,
you lead off, and it also gives you the left, right.
Okay. So
you got Beavers.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Beavers leading off, Westberg second, Gunnar third, Alonso fourth. Then you have another righty with Ward fifth. Then Rutschman sixth. Then if Kowser's gonna be playing every day, I think
Basayo?
I think you do Kowser 7, Basayo 8, Holiday 9. And I think that Basayo should earn his way higher up in the order, and Holiday could. But if Holiday is batting 9th, and then he's protected by a top of the order, Holiday batting 9th, I could see him batting 9th all season. I could see him starting the year as a leadoff hitter and coming out gangbusters and hitting 275 and going 2020. But I also said he was going to do that last year, and he didn't. Jackson's got to step up this year. I get it. He just turned 22 a month ago. You're entering now your second full season, your third season in the big leagues. It's time to step up because Jackson Merrill's your age. He's better than you. Jackson Churrio's your age. He's better than you. Juan Soto was 19 when he made his debut and was better than you. Manny Machado was 20 when he made his debut. He was better than 19. He was better than you. Harper debuted at 19, better than you. You got picked first overall. You made your debut at 20 years old. The time's now. Step it up. Let's get out there and hit 270. The thing that I liked about both Rutschman and Holiday, I said it last year at some point in the season, these guys had elite eyes at the plate. They walked a lot in college and in Rutschman's case, college and the minor leagues. In Holiday's case, Holiday walked 100 times in 2023. In 2023. He walked over 100 times in 2023 at the minor league level. A week after I said that, they both started walking at a much higher rate. It had nothing to do with me. I'm just like,
maybe it did. Maybe they were watching the bat around and they said, "Yeah, that's right."
Well, no, but I feel like I'm a jinx. I feel like anytime I say something bad about somebody, they start to do something good. Or anytime I say something good about the Orioles or the Ravens or the Terps, crap like what we just saw in 2025 from them happens. I fully blame myself for the fact that the 2024 Orioles fell off a cliff because after they lost that game to the Astros 14-11, but they scored. They had the time. They were down 14-3 in the 8th, and they had the tying run on deck in the 9th inning of that game.
Oh yeah, yes.
That next day, we did a show, and I proclaimed the Orioles as the best team in baseball. And immediately, Means got hurt, Bradish got hurt, Kramer went on the IL, and the Orioles were 7 games under 500 after I said that. I fully blame myself for that. I'm the biggest jinx in the world for this team. That being said, Beavers is my leadoff hitter. Westberg bats second, Gunnar third, Alonso fourth, Ward fifth, Rutschman sixth, Kalzer seventh, Basayo eighth, Holiday ninth, and then then they bring in Bellinger, and it throws everything into the wind. So today's show has been brought to you by County Sports Zone. We're in the throes of winter sports at the high school level all year long. Find scores, schedules, and updates for every sport and every school all throughout the state at countysports.zone. Countysports.zone is proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Griffin, anything you want to close with before we get out of here?
No, I mean, I think we covered everything. I don't really have much to plug. Yeah, watch Glenn Clark Radio. Follow me on Twitter at Griffin_Bass and figure out where I am and what I'm doing. I post there semi-regularly-ish, kind of. Maybe not a whole lot. I don't know. Not quite as much as Paul. Paul owns that website.
Oh man. I get myself in trouble on there. I'm telling you. Jesus.
But yeah, just go Orioles. I want to see. I'm with you. I'd like to see one more arm added, and if they add Bellinger too, only good things. There's only gonna be positives. There's no signing a Charlie Morton that we have to pretend that we have to feign excitement about at this point. I think that's the big takeaway from the last month or so now, that the Orioles they learned something. They learned something, and they look like they're going to be a legitimate baseball team again, which is great news.
I'm going to pull this up real quick before we get out of here. It's going to be a brag on my part.
Is this when we were talking to each other earlier before the end of the season?
Yeah. So Griffin sent me a text that I sent to him back in August. He asked me what I thought that the Orioles were going to do. I said, if they want to win, they have to pony up. But I also think a significant trade happens this offseason to bring in an ace. They have to completely rebuild their bullpen, too. I'd say first move needs to be Ryan Helsley. But he's been terrible this year, could get him cheaper. And how good would he realistically be? I think Kyle Tucker is an absolute pipe dream, especially if they already have plans to sign Gunnar, Westberg, Holiday. I think they'll spend money on significant players, but offensively, I think it's Pete Alonso because you can get him for $140 to $160. Schwarber ain't leaving Philadelphia, and Tucker is getting $500 million. Tucker's not even getting $400 million at this point. No. Fromber is 31 already. What's he going to cost? $125 to $150. Right. Cease is the wild card here. He does this consistently. Cy Young candidate 1 year, middling back end starter the next. Does he cash in with the idea that next season is historically another rebound for him, or does he sign a lesser deal because of such a mediocre year this year? Cease was the wild card this year. Cease got 7 years, $210 million to open the starting pitching market, and that's what made Fromber and Suarez want 7 years. They want the same deal that Cease got until they get it. Yeah. They're holding tight on that free agent market. The Orioles brought in Pete Alonso. They brought in Ryan Helsley for cheaper than they should have gotten him because he had a down year last year. They made a significant trade to bring in Shane Baz. That was a prediction I made back in August. It almost entirely panned out like I said it would. If
definitely my prediction, Alonso, the Helsley and Alonso, those were
and Dylan Cease being the wild card there, right? And then
throwing a wrench into everything, yeah.
If you look at if the Orioles trade for Mackenzie Gore and bring in Cody Bellinger, and then or if Bellinger signs with the Yankees, Bregman signs with the Red Sox, Tucker signs with the Blue Jays, and Bichette signs with the Brewers, some front office should be blowing my phone off the hook. If either of those two things happens, some front office should be blowing my phone off the hook. I'm waiting for a phone call, guys. I'm around. My phone's always on me. And if you need a mortgage, my phone's always on me. Give me a call. So that's going to do it for us here on the Birdland, on the Bat Around. Thank you, Birdland, for tuning in. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Without you, we don't have a show. Thank you to thank you to Griffin Bass for joining me today and being so great on the show as always. I look forward to having you on the show again here in the near future. Thank you to all of our loyal listeners, viewers, fans. Without you, we 100% do not have a show. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Another big move coming. I know it. I feel it in my bones. I feel it in my plums. I need it. I want it. Let's get after it. Until next time. See ya.